Okay, so let's talk about sustainability reporting. Everyone is always shouting about transparency, right? Total, complete transparency. But here's the thing. What happens when you actually can't report on everything? It creates this really interesting paradox. Let's dig into that.
Yeah, I mean, how can you be transparent? By omitting information. It just sounds wrong, doesn't it? But this is the paradox. At the heart of so much reporting, you've got this huge demand for total disclosure, but then, boom, you hit reality. We're talking legal restrictions, super confidential data, or maybe you just don't have the info yet. So what do you do? Well, the solution is actually pretty elegant. It's not about what you hide, it's all about how you explain what's missing. And that right there, that's a core idea in the GRI standards. Look, nobody expects you to have a perfect, spotless data set from the get-go. True transparency is about being upfront and organized about the gaps. It's about saying, hey, we can't report this, and then, and this is the crucial part, explaining exactly why. And this is where the GRI Content Index becomes your best friend. Now, seriously, don't just think of this as a table of contents. It is so much more than that. It's like a master navigation tool for your entire sustainability report, sure, but it's also kind of an honesty box. It's not just pointing people to page numbers, it's the place where you openly declare what's not there and why. And believe me, that's how you build some serious credibility.
All right, so let's get into the nuts and bolts of this. You've hit a point where you just can't report something. What now? Well, you can't just, leave a blank space and whistle, hoping nobody notices. GRI gives you a really clear and pretty strict framework for how to handle this. Omissions are definitely not encouraged, but GRI is realistic. They know this stuff happens. The key is how you deal with it.
So here they are, the only 4 permitted reasons, and they are super specific. First, you've got not applicable. That's pretty straightforward. It's for when a disclosure just has nothing to do with your organization. Then there's legal prohibitions and confidentiality constraints. These are for when you're literally not allowed to share the data, either because of a law or because it's a trade secret or something. But this last one, information unavailable, is really important. If you use this reason, you can't just say data's not here and walk away. Nope. You have to explain exactly what's missing, why it's missing, and, this is key, what you're doing to get that data for next time. And GRI themselves put a huge asterisk next to this. They say that confidentiality constraints and information unavailable should only be used in exceptional cases. Why? Well, think about it. If you start using those excuses all the time, it starts to look pretty suspicious, right? It goes from being a legitimate reason to looking like maybe you're just hiding stuff or you haven't bothered to do the work. It completely undermines that whole honesty box idea we talked about and just tanks your credibility. Okay, so that's how you handle omitting specific little bits of information. But what about entire topics? What if you look at a whole issue and decide, you know what, we're not going to report on that at all? This brings us to another really fascinating layer of transparency. It's what we call the not material rule. And this is such a powerful idea because real transparency means you have to show your work. That includes explaining the topics you looked at but decided weren't material for your company. Just a quick refresher, a material topic is one that's a big deal, either because it's a major impact you have on the world or because it's something that could really influence what your stakeholders think or do. The reason this rule exists is to stop companies from just cherry-picking the good news stories. If your industry's sector standard says, hey, this topic is probably important for you guys, you can't just pretend you didn't see it. You have to address it one way or another.
And this really breaks it down nicely. On one side, you have your material topics. That's easy. You report on them, you give all the disclosures, done. But now, look at the other side. For any topic that your sector standard suggests might be material, but you've decided it's not, you still have work to do. First, you have to list that topic in your content index. And second, you have to explain why you decided it wasn't material. This is huge. It shows your readers that you've actually thought about it, that you've done a proper assessment, and you're not just ignoring the tricky stuff.
Okay, so we have all these pieces of the puzzle, right? We have rules for omitting specific data, and we have rules for explaining away non-material topics. So how do we actually put this all together? Let's walk through the actual steps for building a content index that people will actually trust.
It really boils down to these 4 steps. Think of it as your checklist for turning that index into a powerhouse of credibility. First, the basics. List all your disclosures and tell people where to find them. Page number, URL, whatever. Easy. Step 2, that's our honesty box. Document every single omission, state the reason, and give the required explanation. Step 3 is that anti-cherry-picking rule we just talked about.
List any topics from the sector standards you deemed not material and justify it. And finally, step 4, you make it official. You include that formal statement of use, which basically declares that your report was prepared in accordance with the GRI standards. It's like the official stamp of approval.
So here's the big takeaway. The most important thing to remember from all of this. A great content index is not just some boring list at the back of your report. It's not just an administrative chore. It's a storytelling tool. When you do it right, it does more than just point people to information. It actually tells the story of your organization's commitment to being transparent, the good, the bad, and the we're still working on it. It shows your process, your challenges, and your real, genuine effort to be honest. So I'll leave you with this final thought, a question to take back to your own work. Is your content index just a table of contents, a simple checklist? Or is it telling your complete story of transparency? Is it working for you, building that trust and showing the full picture, even the parts that are still under construction? It's something worth thinking about. Thanks so much for tuning in.